Simple math.
Yeah.
Would there be any, a reader also asks, any consideration for the other building as some type of a potential regional grade school, any type of an educational facility?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not sure who's asking the questions, but whoever's on the other end, you're really doing very well answering the questions. We thought about a lot of things. Right now, we have to proceed in the most realistic way possible because, as I think it's Mrs. Webb, the first one who talked about the tight time frame, we have that. A regional elementary school or even a regional Catholic middle school is a really interesting concept and would certainly work well. But there are so many moving parts to that, given how many pastors would be involved, how many parishes, their own transportation issues, that there's too many moving parts to make that work within our time frame. Yeah. However, the primary purpose for that property is educational. And we have been, actually, I've been for 3 years in conversation and have moved far along the way in terms of talking to a partnership with one of our local colleges and universities in the Philadelphia area. And you may know that that's really the way to go. As a university more likely is looking to expand, they find it much better to have a satellite in an existing building with a new population, a new demographic, than to build a new building on their existing campus.
Gentlemen, for the three of you, and also Anne-Marie, certainly, again, in talking a little bit about the tradition, I got the implication in talking to you that when you made the decision and your families made the decision, how big a factor was single sex in that decision?
I'll be candid. I have a daughter at Carroll, and it's a both sex school. I went to Bonner, and my wife and I discussed it. Vernon and I discussed it. I would have loved to have a single-sex school because I believe it's less pressure on the student. I think boys can be boys in their school, girls can be girls in their school, and they don't have the pressure of setting it up. But looking at Prendie, looking at Carroll, looking at O'Hara, we prayed about it, we came together on it, and we made our choice for Carroll. But it was a consideration.
Dan?
Well, I agree. Honestly, if you're thinking back to when I went to school at Bonner, there was no distraction. I mean, it was just you went in and you learned and you did your thing and you had your friends and that's it. And so there was really no distraction at all. Now, of course, back then, what guy wouldn't, being a teenager, wouldn't say, right? But honestly, what did that really do? It would have been a distraction.
Right.
Dan?
I don't think, for me, that wasn't really the factor. I think back when I went, the total tuition we paid was $25 a year.
Yeah.
So
times change.
And it was $25 at Bonner were free at public school, so the difference was almost nothing. So for us, it was just because we get a better education.
Anne-Marie, why do I think it was a bigger factor at Prendie than necessarily at Bonner?
Actually, I would rather speak more currently on the perspective of my children. I have the unique, and not completely unique, because a lot of parents share this. I have two children, a daughter and a son, who went to O'Hara, and my youngest son, Kevin, is a junior at Bonner. Kevin was awarded a scholarship of equal value from both of those schools, so his decision was his decision. And he thought about it, he prayed about it, and if he takes as long to make his college decision, he's going to start a year late. But his ultimate decision came in the early spring of his 8th grade year, and he said, I've decided to go to Bonner. And I said, I need to know your reason, and then we'll decide whether or not we'll respect your decision. And he said, my reason is it was far more personal. And I said, that's a very good reason. And that was that.
And Reverend Olson, the natural follow-up question from another very sharp viewer, Stephen Betzler, is say you do get to a single building and a single facility. Would there be any possibility of within the building single-sex classes?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that, Steve, because I have my finger up, to try to make that point until you ask the question. We're looking at it. I can't promise anything right now, obviously, but among our discussions, and actually these have been discussions that we've had internally for quite some time, could could we maintain single-gendered education in one building? Our current belief right now is a solid yes and no. I don't think we could, in one building, just because the facilities and science labs and things like that have a completely, totally segregated girls and boys population. But could we have single-gendered homerooms, theology classes, lunch tables? The lunch tables, even though they were co-ed, the boys sit with the boys and the girls sit with the boys. Don Juan's notwithstanding that they think they might be, they just hang out with the boys, for lunch. But there is some opportunities to do that, and that's something that, because it's such an important part of the legacy and the tradition of the school, I think that's something that we want to preserve, at least in part. And really, the kids do like the fact that it is all boys, all girls. Mm-hmm. We had Mass on Monday. Everyone in the Bonner Auditorium, it was packed to the gills, bringing everyone there. And I kind of took a little bit of a risk, and I said after communion, the two hymns the kids love the most is "We Are One Body" and the Augustinian hymn "Coming Home." And I said, why don't we come together? We shouldn't let an aisle divide us anymore, the boys and the girls. Let's come together and lock arms while we sing our favorite song. And I was thinking of, because every boy on the end of the aisle looked like he just won the lottery, except for the one boy that looked over and one of the teachers was across the aisle, and that was it. But it was a great coming together, and I think we can do something like that.
Phil, back in '76, maybe '74, I think I was a sophomore or junior, there was some running across the hall for some classes. I have to disclose I took drama at Prendie, all right? So I did take a drama class at Prendie.
It's a brave man, but
Reverend Nelson, one of the other things that it seems that is probably being talked about an awful lot among you and your staff, not necessarily the students, but in fact the staff. There are teachers now at 2 high schools.
Right.
What are you hearing in terms of the numbers? Now, obviously, this is, as we've learned over the last couple of days, this is a different element at the high school level because they are a unionized staff as opposed to the elementary level.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens, placement for them pretty solid?
Yeah, well, yes, because it is a unionized faculty, the teachers, and because that union exists in all of the schools, there is a process by their contract where they will find placement in the other schools. It goes according to various things, mainly seniority, competencies, and things like that. Most of the teachers will be able to follow the students, not only from us, but from the other schools, will be able to follow where the students go and have positions there. Though I grieve, though, for the others. There are 48 people who work at our school who are not teachers, but who will lose their jobs, and that is one of the most painful things for me.
Well, one of the things that it struck me this week in the many conversations that I've had with him, I don't know why it didn't strike me the first time that I was talking to him to ask him about it, but it certainly did on some of the follow-up conversations that I've had with the principal, Bill Brannick, is that come the spring, does he know what he's going to be doing?
Yeah, that's it. And which says about him, right?
Which is unusual because this is a guy that has been through this process personally once before. Right. This is a kid that was at St. James when they closed it down and wound up going to Bonner, and now he's living through it as an administrator all over again.
He is an awesome principal, and it's just by the luck of the draw. I got assigned there, and I find out who my principal is, and he finds out who his president is, and we hit it off from the first moment we met. What does it say about him? All of the administrators, the futures are up in the air. And he is still 100% morning, noon, and night. He's probably at school now, working for the good of the kids. That says something.
The one thing that has really struck me this week is after we got the word on Friday, and I would like to know if you've had any interactions with them, is that both the boys and the girls who are juniors this year, that's got to be a very difficult position for them to be in.
It's awful.
Are they just at this point sort of holding their breath and waiting for the appeal?
You know what, a little bit, although, they do have futures. Everybody there has a future. It's one of the main messages that we've been saying to them. Regardless, you have a future. So although it seems contradictory, we have to do two things at the same time. They do have their hope and all of that. I'm trying not to give them false hope. We're also encouraging them to make plans so that they have an opportunity to get the maximum out of their futures. And we're helping them to make plans, even while we're hoping that they might not need them. You have to.
Yeah. We're going to go rapid fire around the table. We're getting towards the end of the show. And the question is really a very simple one. Dan, at the end, we'll start with you. You had the opportunity here on the show to tell the Blue Ribbon Commission one thing. What do you want them to know?
Can I pass and come back?
Sure. Dan.
I would say at least look at the possibility of combining the schools and give it a shot. I mean, just be open to that idea. I think, honestly, it should have been done 10 years ago. But it didn't happen. And instead of us looking at what the panel said and trying to dissect that and come up with what they got wrong, let's just present a plan to get it right and combine the schools. And that's what I'd say.
Well, try to find a way to make it work. And if you can't make it work, then really completely disclose the process so we understand why the choice was made if it doesn't survive.
Anne-Marie.
I would definitely agree that I would like to see them take a look at the merger. I think it is a unique model. I think it offers not just an opportunity to be salvaged, I think it has merit. I think it has an opportunity to flourish and possibly be the leading school in the Archdiocese.
Yes.
Olson? It's your last chance to confirm that you're appealing.
My last chance to confirm that I
Let's go, Father Olson.
The Blue Ribbon Commission, I have to say, I mean, you have caused me a great deal of stress, but I also thank you. I think the Blue Ribbon Commission did a great job. People that are saying, who are these guys? And these are not AC people that just cook something up. They worked hard and they did good work. At the very least, what they have done is strengthen education in the Archdiocese. At the best, what they have done is bring something out of Bonner and Prendie that wasn't there before. And if our appeal is successful, not that I'm confirming, Bonner and Prendie will be a better school than it has ever been. And we can thank the Blue Ribbon Commission for that.
Dan, back to you.
Well, one of the things, a buddy pointed this out to me, that there's one school in the Archdiocese that has fewer than 300 students that wasn't even mentioned, and it's on a large plot of ground on prime real estate at City Line and Lancaster Avenue. And the suggestion my buddy had was to downsize the seminary, St. Charles Seminary, into one of the buildings in the Archdiocese, which will then be open. They got a lot of cash quickly for the Archdiocese, and they already have facilities that could manage to house the new priest.
St. Charles is my church.
It would reduce the cost all over. It could be underguessed.
A couple of nuts and bolts items that we'd like to review and you have the opportunity to do. One, there is an online petition that's being circulated. You can go to delcotimes.com for a link to sign the petition in order to save Bonner and Prendie. I know that, Reverend Olson, that there is a Facebook survey that every family in the Bonner and Prendie families is being asked to complete that survey on Facebook.
Actually, can I interrupt too and say it's not just on Facebook, because people don't all subscribe to Facebook. On Bonner's webpage and Archbishop Prendergast's webpage, those surveys are all there.
And you
alumni
want
surveys,
every family to take the survey.
not just families, alumni take the surveys, prospective students. There'll be one for that soon. Take the survey.
Oh yeah, and people have been great about responding to them, and that is very helpful. That gives us data, which is what we need. And it's been strong on that, but it gives us data.
Absolutely. The compilation of valid data is a strong supporting arm to any appeal.
Reverend Olson, you also mentioned that there is, in fact, a trust fund that people would want to make a contribution. How do they go about doing that?
Yeah, there is. There's actually, it's not even a trust fund at this point. It's an escrow account that we opened, because we want to hold any money that people are donating right now, and it's been significant, but we want to hold that aside to say this is what we have. If an appeal is not successful, we return the money right away. And because it's an escrow account, it doesn't have the variables of a 501c3 and all that. They can send it either to the school, a check of any amount, and if they would put in the memo part, just keep the faith. It'll go into the escrow account, and I need that. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, we have a great plan, but it doesn't have any money. If I go downtown with a pocket full of pledges and promises, I'm coming right back because it's not going to be there. It has to be, and this is sort of a challenge to the alums, and I know they're at the table. It's now or never, and if you want it, now's the time.
No, can I ask my 500 friends on Facebook to send a check?
Absolutely.
So my 500 friends on Facebook, send a check.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
have been talking live from the newsroom. We've been talking Catholic education in both Delaware County and the Archdiocese. This is a situation that is not going to go away. We have not yet canvassed all 7 of the elementary schools in the county as to whether or not they are going to be filing appeals. We'll be trying to get confirmations from them later this week. We await anxiously to hear formal word from Reverend Olson. No doubt he'll tell us before anyone else.
I promise
whether
you're
or not
the first. You will be the first.
He is formally appealing. Our thanks again to our panel tonight, the Reverend James Olson, the president of Monsignor Bonner and Archbishop Prendergast High Schools, Anne Marie Montgomery, a Prendie girl from 77, Bob Marone, a Bonner guy from 76, and our 2 Dans, Dan Praz, 78, a Bonner man, and Dan Callahan, class of 71. We'll obviously be following the story. We'll be back again next Wednesday night. I don't know if we'll be able to deliver a formal word. Maybe we will. Until then, we'll see you live from the newsroom next Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Talk to you then.
You're clear.